I remember falling, but not with gravity. More like being pulled through the marrow of the world, every bone unstitched, every memory scattered like ash. The chamber had collapsed, the chance had shattered, and the mirror swallowed me whole. I didn't leap. I didn't choose. It dragged me. The glass bent outward like water, and then snapped shut behind me, and when I opened my eyes, I was nowhere I recognized. The blackness was not empty. It was sharp, splintered, humming like a mouthful of broken teeth. Shards floated in the void all around me, fragments of glass suspended in the dark, each one glowing faintly, vibrating with an almost inaudible hum. But it wasn't just sound. I could feel it in my bones, in my gums, in the back of my eyes. Every hum belonged to me. When I stepped forward, the shards shifted slightly like they were watching, leaning closer. The air smelled of iron, like blood dried long ago, and something acrid like burnt wiring. I pressed closer to one shard and saw it wasn't just reflection. Inside was a piece of my life, me at 10 years old, clutching a bike too big, grinning through missing teeth. The boy looked up suddenly, and his lips moved in silent panic. "Get me out." My stomach dropped. The shard was not a picture. It was a prison. I staggered backward and bumped another shard, colder than ice, so sharp it sliced the edge of my palm. Blood smeared the surface, and inside I saw myself older, unshaven, staring blankly at a laptop screen in some forgotten apartment. His face twisted, eyes wild, and he slammed his fists against the glass until cracks spidered outward. I stumbled away, my heart hammering, and the humming in the void grew louder. Each shard began to pulse in rhythm with my chest. Dozens of me, hundreds. Some sobbed silently, some screamed until their faces split, others laughed, eyes rolling back, throats stretched open in soundless hysteria. One version of me was burned black, skin cracking as he clawed uselessly at the barrier. Another swung from a rope tied to nothing, legs kicking slow and heavy, head twitching. Another sat calmly, writing in a notebook, looking up only to sneer. I spun in circles, trying to find one that looked like me, the me I thought I was. But the longer I searched, the less certain I became. I whispered, "I'm real," over and over, but the shards whispered back, their voices overlapping until the void itself seemed to breathe. No one is real. The sound slithered inside me, and for a moment I almost believed it. What if I wasn't the one who lived through all of this? What if I was just the stray copy, the leftover glitch, some echo that never should have survived? Then one shard glowed brighter than the rest. It was taller, clearer, shaped like a doorway. Inside stood a version of me that didn't scream or beg or writhe. He stood tall, composed, arms folded behind his back like a judge waiting for order. His eyes locked with mine, steady, sharp, too, confident, and when his mouth moved, the sound was not muffled like the others. It was clear. "You are not the original," he said. The words froze me in place. My heart skipped, my throat tightened. I shook my head violently. "Number, you're the copy. I'm the one." My voice cracked, hollow. He raised a hand, silencing me. "You are the error, a shard that should have dissolved. I am the Michael that was meant to remain." His lips curved, not a smile, but something colder. "And now you've wandered into my court." The void shifted. The shards rotated, forming a circle around me, closing in tighter. The humming rose to a pitch that made my teeth ache. My doubles inside the glass pounded harder, their mouths stretching wide. Some cried, some laughed, some repeated the rules in broken cadence. One of them spat blood against the inside of the shard, smearing the word liar across the surface. Another whispered prayers. Another just stared, calm and pitiless, like he had already judged me guilty. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't outside. It was under my skin. I felt every other Michael clawing for space inside me, each one trying to convince me he was the real one. I wanted to believe I was, that I was the one who had Pixel, who had fought the motel, who had resisted the observer. But the certainty was gone. If they all remembered pieces of my life, then which of us was telling the truth? The calm Michael in the glowing shard took a step forward. His image pressed against the glass and it rippled like water. My chest tightened. He could leave. He could come out. And then one of the other shards cracked. A jagged split tore across the surface and the Michael inside forced his hand through, skin shredding as glass bit into him. Blood spattered into the void, real, wet, dripping down my arm as if the barrier between us no longer mattered. His face twisted in rage, and his mouth finally found volume. I deserve to live. The shard shattered fully, pieces of glass spinning into the dark, and the broken Michael began crawling out, eyes wild, teeth bared. The calm one in the glowing shard smiled faintly. And in that moment, I realized the collapse hadn't ended in the chamber. It was only beginning here. The first shard broke with a scream, and I swear it wasn't just glass. It was bone, splitting clean through. My double crawled out, skin torn, blood dripping into the void like drops of oil on black water. His teeth gnashed, his eyes burned, and when he spoke, it was my voice cracked raw. I deserve to live, he growled, dragging himself closer, shards embedded in his arms, his face twitching between mine and something wrong. The other shards shuddered, humming louder, as though his escape had given them permission. Lines of cracks spread across their surfaces, each one bulging as the Michaels inside pressed forward. Some screamed, some laughed, some pounded their fists until shards rained down. I backed away, my body lagging, glitching with every movement, ribs flashing through skin, limbs stuttering like broken frames. The calm Michael in the glowing shard only watched, eyes fixed on me, expression unshaken. The crawling double reached his feet, blood streaking down his chest, and pointed at me. "Rule 1, he hissed. "The broken copy dies first." The words made no sense, but the void itself seemed to acknowledge them, humming louder, vibrating the fragments around us. My teeth rattled, my bones ached, as if the new law had weight. Another shard cracked open, and a version of me with hollow sockets for eyes stumbled out. His mouth split wide as he shouted, "Rule 2. The first who speaks against the verdict forfeits his place." I clutched my head, shaking, because the moment he said it, I felt my tongue heavy, my throat clamped, like the rule had bound me before I could even fight. The circle of shards pulsed, and more of them began to chant. "Rule 3, a thin, skeletal Michael cried, stabbing his finger toward me. "There is no original." The words rang sharp, slicing through me worse than the hum. No original, no anchor, just copies fighting for the right to wear the mask. I screamed back, my voice muffled by the pressure choking me. "Stop, stop, these aren't rules." But the void twisted, squeezing tighter, punishing me for resisting. The copies cackled, their voices blending until I couldn't tell which came from inside or outside. And then she appeared. Pixel. Not as a cat, not as the glowing replacement, but walking upright inside one of the shards, her form human but wrong. Skin pale and glassy, eyes glowing gold. She pressed her hand against the inside of the shard and whispered, clear as anything, "Rule 0. There is no anchor." The void froze. Every shard stopped vibrating for one heavy beat. Every Michael went silent, even the crawling bloody one. My chest locked as the words sank in. No anchor. All the time I thought Pixel had been my tether, my witness, my reason to fight. Now she was erasing herself, or worse, declaring she was never mine. The calm Michael raised his hand, his voice steady, commanding. He is the error. He clings to anchors that were never real. He breaks the process. His words carried weight, not shouted but certain, and the void acknowledged him too, ripples of pressure slamming against my body until my knees buckled. I tried to breathe, to remind myself I had lived something real. Pixel in my apartment curled on my chest, her purr steady. Pixel pawing at me for food. Pixel nudging my hand when I felt too worthless to get up. They had to be real. They had to be mine. But when I tried to cling to the memory, the shards laughed. One showed me the same scene, but the Michael inside wasn't me. His face blurred, glitching between my features and another's, Pixel staring up at him not with love, but with clinical detachment, eyes glowing faint gold. "Do you see?" One of the screaming copies barked. "Every anchor is an observer." Another picked up the chant. Every comfort is a cage. Every law is a chain. The rules came faster now, hurled from every direction, each new phrase etching itself into the void. Rule 4, denial is confirmation. Rule 5, silence is agreement. Rule 6, memory is irrelevant. Each one struck me like a blow, forcing my chest tighter, burning lines into my skin as though carved there. I stumbled back, my foot catching on the edge of a shard that cracked under my weight. A hand shot out from it, grabbing my ankle, another Michael grinning up at me with blood-caked teeth. Rule 7, he whispered, dragging at me. Only one walks out. My scream echoed, swallowed instantly by the void, as dozens of Michaels lunged against their glass prisons, desperate, hungry. The calm Michael's voice rose above the chaos, smooth, terrible. Subject MB has resisted too long. Integration requires collapse. The shard must be chosen. His eyes locked on me, sharp as knives. Choose or dissolve. And for the first time, I realized the rules I had clung to in the motel were never for survival. They were training, conditioning, each one a chain around my neck, teaching me obedience, preparing me for this place where rules were not given. They were born out of voices, out of will, out of lies repeated until reality bent around them. The void pulsed once more, every shard glowing, every Michael chanting in 1,000 broken voices, until I couldn't tell if I was hearing them or if I was one of them already. The void folded in on itself, shards grinding together with a sound like teeth snapping. I stumbled back, blinded by the light spilling from every direction, until the fragments rearranged into a circle around me. The humming quieted, replaced by a low murmur, the kind you hear in a courtroom before the verdict. My chest tightened because I knew I was standing in a tribunal, not judged by strangers, but by myself. The shards became seats, each one warping into the shape of a chair, and in each sat a Michael. They weren't reflections anymore. They were whole, breathing, staring, waiting. Some looked like me, as I remembered, unkempt hair, tired eyes, hands fidgeting. Others were worse. One was gaunt, cheeks sunken, veins bulging black beneath skin. Another bloated, eyes bulging, lips purple as if drowned. One bled from a wound in his temple that never stopped dripping. Yet all of them were me. They began to speak, voices colliding, overlapping, fighting for dominance. "He's the liar," one shouted, pointing directly at me. "He broke the anchor." Another hissed, "No, he killed Pixel. He strangled her in his arms." My heart raced as I shook my head, shouting back, "I didn't. I never." But the words drowned in their chaos. One leaned forward, his mouth stretched too, wide, and spat. "He betrayed us all. He signed away everything." Another, calmer, leaned back in his chair, smirking as if he'd won. "He is experiment MB237, nothing more." The words echoed through the chamber, and as soon as the number was spoken, the walls lit up. Screens appeared one after another, filling the darkness with reels of film, each playing fragments of my life. At first, they were true, or seemed true. Me at the motel desk, scanning the list of rules. Me feeding Pixel, whispering her name. Me walking into the neon glow outside whispering pines, exhausted but desperate. I clung to those images, but then they shifted. On one screen, I was signing papers with shaking hands, and next to me, the observer stood, calm, watching. Another showed me laughing as Pixel writhed in pain, her body sparking in my arms. Another showed me burning the motel sign myself, eyes wild, as if I had always known what I was doing. I screamed at the screens, "That's not me! That never happened!" But as soon as I denied them, the images shifted again, making the lie into memory. The tribunal laughed, 100 voices jeering, mocking. "He doesn't even know his own life," one sneered. "He can't tell truth from fabrication." Another whispered, "That's the point. He was never supposed to." Their faces blurred between laughter and rage, all of them rising to their feet, pointing, condemning. My legs shook under their weight, and then when Michael stood, he wasn't grotesque or broken. He looked composed, calm, his clothes unrumpled, his eyes clear. When he spoke, The rest went silent. "Enough," he said, his voice steady, commanding. He pointed at me, sharp as a blade. "That one is the error, a misprint, a failed shard that slipped through collapse." His words rang clear, and the other Michaels murmured in agreement, nodding, whispering, their eyes burning into me. I shouted, desperate, "I'm real! I'm the one who's lived all this. I fought the rules, I held Pixel, I saw the Observer." But my voice broke, because as soon as I said it, one of the screens flickered and showed a different me, a Michael smirking at the rules as if they were a joke, as if none of this had ever touched him. The calm Michael stepped closer, his presence heavy, undeniable. "You're not the survivor," he said. "You're the leftover, a ghost clinging to scraps. I am the true Michael Brennan, the one who consented, the one who remained. And now, this court will confirm it." The void vibrated like a heartbeat, the shards pulsing with his words. The others cheered or laughed or wept, but none defended me. Not one. My stomach sank, because even I wasn't sure anymore. My memories twisted, fractured, rewriting themselves with every denial. Was I the one who held Pixel in my apartment, or was that another shard's life I had stolen? The calm Michael raised his arms like a judge calling for silence. "This tribunal exists for one purpose, to determine which of us continues and which dissolve." His eyes locked with mine, steady, merciless. "You are nothing but noise, and soon you will be erased." The hum rose again, building into a roar. My chest tightened, breath shallow, the shards pressing closer. Every version of me leaned forward, hungry, waiting. My throat tightened with words I couldn't form. I wanted to argue, to scream, but deep down I felt the terror of his certainty. Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't the real one. And then one of the screens lit brighter than the rest. It showed me, not him, not any other, standing in the motel corridor on the first night, holding the rule sheet with trembling hands. But even as I recognized myself, the image warped, blurred, splitting until there were two of us, layered, indistinguishable. The calm Michael smiled, stepping closer. "Even your memories betray you," he said softly. "And now you'll know the truth." The tribunal fell into silence, the kind of silence that's heavier than noise, pressing down on my chest until I thought my ribs would snap. The calm Michael had just declared me an error, and the others nodded, murmuring, chanting their agreement. My pulse raced, words clawed at my throat, but then the air shifted, sharp as static, and everyone turned. A new shard lit up, brighter than the rest, the glass bending outward. My stomach clenched before I even saw her step through. Pixel. Not curled in my lap, not sparking in my arms, not crouched on the floor with neon eyes, but upright, walking. Her body was shaped like mine, human, but her skin shimmered faint, almost translucent, as if glass and flesh had been woven together. Her hair was the color of ash, her face both familiar and strange, and when her eyes lifted, glowing gold, I felt my chest seize. She was no longer pretending to be my anchor, she was something else entirely. The Michaels in the tribunal bowed their heads in unison, some trembling, some grinning, all silent. Even the calm one lowered his gaze. And then she spoke. The voice wasn't only hers. It was layered, my Pixel's soft tone overlaid with the Observer's precise cadence, two voices braided into one. "The anchor is obsolete," she said. "Witness has ascended." Her words cracked the chamber like a whip. My knees buckled. "No," I whispered, shaking my head, but she continued as though I hadn't spoken. "I was never placed to comfort you. I was not warmth. I was not love. I was not yours." Her gaze seared through me, colder than any denial. "I was placed to observe, to record, to ensure consent remained intact when you faltered." Memories flooded my mind unbidden. Pixel curled against me on the nights I couldn't sleep. Pixel pawing at my chest when I lay in bed, unable to move. Pixel pressing her face into my hand when I thought I had nothing left. Those moments had saved me. Those moments had felt real. I clung to them with everything I had, but as soon as I reached, they changed. I saw myself cradling her, but behind her eyes was a faint glow, recording, calculating. I saw her paw at my chest, but not to comfort. Her claws traced sigils into my skin, invisible lines. I saw her pressing into my hand, but her gaze wasn't loving. It was watchful, cataloging my every flinch, my every word. What I thought was affection was surveillance. What I thought was anchor was experiment. I shouted, voice raw, desperate. "You're lying. You were mine. Pixel was mine." The tribunal laughed, a dozen voices cracking with hysteria, others murmuring agreement. One whispered, "He still doesn't see." Another laughed, "He still thinks he was loved." Their jeers burned worse than any chain. Pixel stepped closer, her footsteps soundless but carrying weight all the same. The floor beneath her shimmered like water rippling outward with each movement. When she stopped in front of me, she looked down with something between pity and contempt. "You still cling to illusions," she said softly. "You believed you were her owner, but you were never her master." Her face lowered closer, her voice sharp, final. "You were my subject." The words hit me harder than any blow. My vision swam, my breath ragged. Every memory of her twisted into a weapon, stabbing back at me. I saw her perched on the windowsill, not watching the world, but watching me. I saw her sit at the foot of my bed, not to keep me company, but to keep me contained. Even her purr, the one sound that always grounded me, warped into static in my ears, a data stream rather than affection. The calm Michael rose again, gesturing toward her. "The ascendant has spoken," he said. "Her witness is absolute. The subject has no claim to self." The others echoed, nodding, chanting, "No claim, no claim, no claim." My stomach turned to stone. I shook my head, fighting the tide. No, I won't accept it. She loved me. My voice faltered, because deep down, beneath the panic, beneath the rage, was a hollow fear I couldn't silence. What if she never did? What if all of it was fabrication, programmed responses meant to keep me docile? What if I was never anything but an experiment in her eyes? Pixel tilted her head, her gaze steady, merciless. "You believed you found meaning in me," she whispered, "but meaning was never yours to choose. You were always observed. You were always archived. You were always mine." I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw her face, to drag her back into the lie where she had been my comfort, my reason. But the tribunal's voices rose, drowning me out, hammering me with their judgment. Subject MB, Subject MB, Witness Ascendant, Subject Archived. The walls glowed with symbols, each one burning into me, searing my skin, my chest, my throat. I fell to my knees, the weight crushing me. I looked up at her, desperate for some flicker of the pixel I had known, but all I saw was the reflection of my own fear burning in her eyes. She reached down, her hand pale and glassy, her fingers brushing my cheek. "You were never my owner," she said again, softer now, almost kind. "You were my subject." When the tribunal dissolved, I thought I would be free, but instead I woke choking on the sting of chemicals, the hum of machinery drilling into my skull. My knees hit a floor so cold it felt alive, humming faint vibrations into my bones. I looked up and froze. Towers of glass tanks stretched in every direction, each one glowing faint blue, each one holding a body. My body. They floated weightless in thick liquid, eyes closed, skin pale under the glow. Some wore scars I didn't recognize. Others looked younger, thinner, unbroken. Every tank bore a label etched in sterile light: MB021, MB112, MB237. My stomach knotted when I realized I wasn't even the highest number. I pressed my hand to one tank, and the figure inside twitched. His eyes shot open, my own eyes, and the breathing tube in his mouth vibrated like he was trying to scream. The air tasted of iron and disinfectant, sharp and sour. Every breath burned my throat. The hum of the machines wasn't constant. It pulsed like a heartbeat, like the entire room was alive. Then, the tanks shivered in unison, liquid rippling. One after another, eyes opened inside them. Dozens of me, staring out, unblinking, blank. Some lifted their hands to the glass, palms pressing, leaving smears in the condensation. One slammed his fist hard enough that cracks spidered along the surface. I stumbled back, clutching my head, whispering that this couldn't be real. That's when the static came. It crawled across the walls first, making the lights flicker, then slid across my skin, prickling, raising every hair on my body. The tanks rattled like they were being shaken by invisible hands. The hum pitched higher until I couldn't tell if it was the machines or the blood pounding in my ears. And then, he was there. The observer did not flicker this time. He emerged, fully formed, a blur sharpened enough to suggest a face but never fully resolve it. Cheekbones I almost recognized, the tilt of a mouth that never stayed the same. His presence bent the air like gravity. My knees weakened before he even spoke. "Subject MB," he said, calm, measured, inescapable. "You resist still. You remain still. But the time for wandering is over." My throat burned. "You did this, all of it. The motel, the rules, Pixel. None of it was real. None of it was mine." He tilted his head, a teacher humoring a failing student. "Fabrications, yes. Constructs of containment, rules to train compliance, anchors to preserve consent, structures built for your kind so you do not fracture too soon. Every iteration obeys or collapses or forgets. That is the design." His hand swept toward the tanks. "And you are not the first. MB-021, MB-112, MB-237, each one lived, resisted, dissolved, each one archived." I shook my head violently, tears stinging my eyes. "So I'm just another copy? Another failed test?" His voice sharpened, edges of static cutting into me. "You are correct and not. You are always you. But you are not singular. You are a thread woven among many. You are continuity, not origin." The words hollowed me out. My breaths came in shudders, my pulse clawing in my throat. I wanted to scream that I was real, that I was the one who fed Pixel, the one who followed the rules, the one who suffered every night. But even as I thought it, I looked at the tanks and saw those same moments flicker in their eyes. How many of them remembered the same things? How many believed they were the original too? I spat through gritted teeth. Then why me? Why am I still standing while they float in jars? For the first time, I thought I saw his blurred mouth twitch upward. "Because you resist more, you remember more, you fracture differently, you disrupt patterns the others did not. That is why you remain. That is why you are dangerous." The tanks trembled violently, liquid boiling, as the other Michaels stirred. Eyes wide, mouths moving against their tubes, some laughing soundlessly, others screaming bubbles into the fluid. Their hands slammed against the glass, palms bleeding, nails snapping as they clawed to get out. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. Their voices weren't audible, but I heard them anyway, inside my head, overlapping, deafening. "Choose, choose, choose." The observer loomed closer, static crawling over my skin like ice. "Now you will choose," he said, "integration or erasure." The words hit me harder than any blow. Integration meant surrender, losing my face, my name, my right to claim I had lived anything of my own. Erasure meant silence, oblivion. No record, no memory, no trace. My stomach clenched because neither was survival. Both were endings. I shook my head, throat tight with panic. "Number, I won't give you either. I won't." The static surged, his form expanding until it filled my vision. "You will choose," he said, his voice splintering into layers, dozens of tones speaking at once, some human, some mechanical, all mine. "Or the system will choose for you." The air pressed against me like a weight. Consent must be preserved. Witness must be absolute. Collapse must conclude. And then every tank lit at once. Blue liquid burned white, flooding the room with blinding light. Hundreds of Michaels slammed their palms against the glass, mouths opening in unison, their voices erupting inside my skull, screaming with mine, chanting my name, chanting rules, chanting verdicts. The floor shook, the hum became a roar, and I fell to my knees, clutching my head as if I could keep it from splitting apart. The observer bent close, his face almost clear, almost human, his words sharp as knives. "Integration begins, or erasure is immediate." I thought I could resist forever, but the moment the observer spoke those words, integration begins, or erasure is immediate, something in the room snapped. The tanks around me trembled, liquid sloshing, glass vibrating like it was alive. I pressed my palms against the floor, trying to steady myself, but the humming had risen to a pitch that cut through bone. Then, the first tank burst. The sound was deafening, a scream of breaking glass mixed with the hiss of liquid spilling out. A body fell with it, slamming onto the ground hard enough to splash me with blue fluid. My body. He coughed, choking, his eyes bloodshot and wide, and then he crawled toward me with his nails scraping the floor. His face was mine, twisted in rage, veins pulsing across his forehead. "You're the thief!" he gasped. "You stole my place!" Another tank shattered, and another. The room filled with the wet slap of bodies falling, dozens of Michaels clawing, stumbling, dragging themselves across the floor. Some attacked each other immediately, tearing flesh with teeth and nails, blood spraying across the sterile lab. Others screamed prayers into the void. A few stared directly at me, eyes filled with fury, as if I was the only imposter here. Their voices rose into chaos, but all of them carried my tone, my inflection, my pain. I stumbled back, feet slipping on the liquid spreading across the floor. Glass sliced my palms as I tried to steady myself, but I couldn't feel where the pain ended and where the static began. My body flickered, ribs flashing through skin, hands doubling then splitting again. One of my doubles grabbed me by the shoulders, snarling through bloody teeth, "I am the original!" before another crashed into him, tackling him down, tearing his throat open. Blood hit my face warm and metallic, and the taste was my own. The observer loomed over the frenzy, static surging from his form, his voice calm but absolute. Collapse is complete. Final integration begins. The walls buckled, bending inward. The ceiling split into jagged static. The floor dissolved into black water that rippled under my feet. The tanks melted into shards of light, rising, spinning, merging with the ceiling. My doubles screamed louder as some dissolved mid-step, their bodies collapsing into dust, while others multiplied, splitting into 2, 3, then rejoining. Reality itself was folding in, coiling like a snake around me. And then she appeared. Pixel, not fur, not claws, not sparks of red and gold. The Ascendant. She stepped through the carnage with slow, deliberate movements, her glass flesh glowing faint gold, her eyes searing through the dark. Her bare feet touched the black water, and ripples spread outward, erasing the broken floor as if she owned the ground itself. Blood and static couldn't touch her. Every other Michael fell back as she approached, as if even the copies recognized her authority. She knelt in front of me, her hand cool against my cheek. "If you resist, you dissolve," she whispered. Her voice was layered, hers and the observer's, one soft, one cutting, both undeniable. My chest heaved. Behind her, Michaels ripped into each other, tearing, howling, faces stretching into grotesque masks, blood filling the water until it glowed crimson under the lab's light. "I won't," I gasped. "I can't." "You must," she said. "Integration or erasure. Witness must remain." The observer leaned closer, his form expanding, static dripping like chains from his outline. "Consent archived. Witness ascendant. Final integration proceeds." His words layered into dozens of voices, each my own, echoing in my skull. I pressed my palms against my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside me. And then my memories tore open. I saw myself as a child, riding a bike, falling, bleeding. I saw myself unemployed, sitting in the dark with Pixel purring on my lap. I saw myself in the motel, reading the rules. I saw myself burning alive, strangled by reflections, executed by doubles. Each moment flashed too fast, then looped again, piling one on top of the other until I couldn't tell which was mine. They overlapped, fractured, rewriting themselves. I screamed, clutching my head, but the images only grew sharper, brighter, crueler. My body glitched, splitting. I saw myself from above, from below, from inside. My ribs cracked open, my spine twisted, my arms flickered into dozens, each one grasping for air. My mouth opened, and the sound that came out wasn't mine alone. It was a chorus. Hundreds of Michaels screaming in unison, our voices blending into static. I tried to anchor myself to one thing, one memory that had to be mine. Pixel, in my apartment, not ascendant, not witness, just Pixel. Small, warm, curled against my chest as I fell asleep. Her purr filling the silence, grounding me, making me believe I was worth something. I forced that image into my mind, clutching it like a lifeline. But the image cracked. Her eyes glowed faint gold. Her purr shifted into static. Her tail flicked like a metronome recording data. I screamed, "No!" and the memory shattered into shards, scattering into the void. Even the one thing I thought was mine was stolen, rewritten, archived. The observer's voice thundered above the screams. Final integration begins. Subject dissolves. The room collapsed inward. Black water rose up, shards of light piercing the dark, sigils blazing across the walls in burning crimson and gold. My doubles lunged, some fusing into my body, some tearing pieces of me away. I couldn't feel where I ended and they began. My mind split into dozens, each voice screaming a different denial, a different memory, a different death. The force dragged me forward toward the far end of the collapsing chamber. A mirror stood there, untouched, its cracked surface rippling like water. My legs buckled, but I couldn't stop. The black water pulled me. Shards cut my skin. Blood poured down my arms. I stumbled, crawled, then stood before it. I looked into the glass. There was nothing. No reflection, no Michael Brennan staring back, no face at all. Only emptiness. And then her voice came, soft, endless, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Pixel's voice, layered with mine, with his, with all of us. "Then who are you?"